the top 40 band when I was playing the keys. And no, I'm not embarrassed to admit it. Hey, it's Joel, and it is Friday, May 22nd. Welcome to today's daily briefing, where we're going to be gathering up a group of owners on this Friday. All you folks that are running studios and production companies and sound and music companies, it's good to have you here with us. And I'm actually excited to say, Tim, we have our best buddy and friend, colleague, Marcel, joining us again today. So I'll let you welcome Marcel back with us.
Yeah, motivator, challenger. Marcel, we're setting you up. We're ready for you today.
Thank you.
Rabble rouser.
You know, it's good to be with you guys on this Friday before a 3-day weekend. I'm sure many people are trying to wrap things up and enjoy their next holiday, especially with the states opening up earlier this week. It's a little bit of freedom and a little bit of love and a little bit of excitement. So the coronacations are starting. We're ready to see what happens as people take a leave.
So Marcel, welcome back. It's good to have you with us, man. Happy Friday.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I mean, I've been in the background, while working, but listening too. But it's good to be back, talk about, life stuff.
Yeah, I know you've had some things on your mind that you wanted to chat about and process today. So I'm really curious to hear what's going on. By the way, it is very dark here because of thunderstorms in Arkansas. So Marcel, you look like you're bathing in sunlight out there in LA.
LA is burning now. It's like 92 degrees outside. It's insane.
All right, well, stay cool. So Tim, today is our Ask Me Anything, our open forum Friday. So of course, anyone that has a comment or a question or questions that we did not get to answer as we went throughout the week, we'll try and tackle them here. Do you want to give people a sense of what's coming next week? Because we have the holiday on Monday and then Revolve starting on Thursday. So give everyone a sense of what's going on.
Yeah, and as you know, we've been talking about trying to convert this daily briefing into something more sustainable for us. So we are going to take Monday off, like the rest of the United States, kind of enjoy the 3-day weekend, which kicks off our conversation here a little bit. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, we are going to continue this conversation in its current format. And then as of Thursday, Revolve begins. And those people that have signed up are going to kind of take over this schedule for us. If you are interested in knowing about Revolve, make sure you go to revthink.com/revolve. We'll put the link in here. That's the mastermind where we're talking about the importance of this specific time period coming out of the coronavirus shutdown, what it means to you specifically with regards to sales, to marketing, your financial systems, and your production routines, so that you can manage and keep up with the changes and live with this pivot that we're all going to go through. There's something very important to this specific time, and there's some, I don't know what that would be, like some conflicts that need to be resolved with your specific marketing messaging and strategy you're giving your clients. So we want to make sure we're being very timely with our teaching and put that out there.
So now let's get to our topic. Marcel, I'm really curious to hear from you, man. What's been on your mind other than, of course, running your business? Because I know you've been crazy busy in meeting and pitching, and we were just laughing before the call started when you were saying, I just want to be a creative director. And isn't that like the anthem cry of every creative entrepreneur? I just want to, and then you fill in the blank with your genius.
Yeah.
And then there's all this other stuff, right? But tell us what's been like in the back of your mind over the last week since we last saw you.
It's been insane. Actually, I'm having a hard time shutting down my head, during coronavirus. And I mean, I was always my creative, peak is at night usually. So my head start working around 3:00 and on. But lately it's been insane because I'm having all these crazy ideas and even thinking about concepts of, not only life, but thinking about how I used to run projects or run the studio, and how do I need to adapt and change a few things around, or even the way that I'm reading numbers from the studio and try to apply that into concepts as well to sell that to the team. So my head has been like spinning with all of that. It's been insane, to be honest.
So Marcel, I think that, some of the conversations we've had, there's kind of a blessing in taking this more critical look at your business, because you were kind of forced to do it like every business owner, and then be able to ask new questions. Hey, about the production efficiencies, for example, about thinking about what it takes to develop a team and who's going to be on the team. Does it make you excited that you actually kind of discovered some of these ideas? Does it make you worried? Are you stressed because now you have to do a lot of work to put that in place? Where are you kind of falling on that spectrum?
It's actually super exciting. It's like things that I never thought about. Like, I can share something really simple with you guys. We were doing like a production roll up the other day, and then we had a big project that we did a couple of months, like, for three months. And it was like a huge project with a client that we pursued for 5 years. I was like, calling this client for 5 years, going to see them on every sales trip, going to sending them messages and this and that. And then finally, after 5 years, we got a project with them. And then once this project is here, we worked for 3 months. And then I look at the production roll up, we were down by 8% when we wrapped the project. And then I was like, what the heck just happened? Yeah. And you guys might think that I'm crazy here, but we do a postmortem about like every project at State. So we have a meeting. It's like a 1-hour meeting where we don't point fingers on anyone. So it's just it's something that we need to learn. And that document, we keep that document available for everyone who was on the project and for the people in the team. So for example, every time you want to access that information or the mistakes that we made or things that we did right, so you just go back to that document and read. So you're like, what happened to that specific project? So you go back there and say, oh, this is where it got shady, or for example, this is where we were struggling with the client. But when I saw the 8%, deficit, so we were down by like 8%, and I was like, what happened, guys? And I noticed that a lot of people, like, they had their notes. They're like, hey, Marcel, it took forever for me to give me like your feedback and this and that. And then all of a sudden I said, hey, first of all, it was our first project with this client. And to me, I read that whole situation is the price of learning. I was like,
nice.
Look, I'm looking to work with this client. I'm looking for a relationship. Okay. Don't you pay for education? When you go to college, you pay to learn something, right? So we were down by 8%. It sucks, yes, but that's the price of education. Now I know that this client takes forever to send me a logo. And then next time it's the speed. Now I know that information. So next time I know how to do that faster. Instead of waiting 3 weeks to get the final logo, I can start asking that question as soon as we sign the deal. Like for example, this client changed his mind through the design phase. Now next time we need to just like extend the design phase. So to me, it was a way to like, okay, now that we paid to learn from this client, maybe we need to go back to this client, hey, and say that to them. We know how to work with you now because we understood all these like, bullet points here.
Yeah, I like what you're saying too, because when we do the factors with you guys, we actually have that bucket called calculated loss. Mm-hmm. And that's just a realization. That's like just facing reality that sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But those are important aspects to business. And you can take a loss. You can strategically take a loss and learn something from a client or recognize like losses happen, whatever. Well, let's not repeat it. I love that instead of expecting everything's always going to win, you're always going to be on budget, and then you punish people and push the buttons and try to find a scapegoat of what went wrong. And this thought of like, let's never do it again. Like that's an impossible way of running a business. But you're right. The price of education it's almost the cheapest education you're going to get, right? Like you can actually get something understood. There's a monetary price to that. But also like you can do it in a short amount of time and you're going to get a return on investment from that client. I love great attitude about that. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, it is, and also, but it took me like some late nights to really understand that, you know. But the only way I was able to do that because I had a time at home, and I was like, okay, what happened to that project, you know? Because
Yeah.
it's a big project. So when you take a hit of 8% on a 6-digit project, it's like a lot. You're like, oh my God, it's like almost 10% here. It's a lot of money. But at the same time, I learned a lot, and then also I was able to identify a bunch of things just hearing people saying, right? So we're not pointing fingers at each other. We're just talking things that we could have done better. And then to me was a meeting. It was so awesome to just read all the bullet points, because one thing that came to my mind out of that meeting was just one word: speed. So for example, if you're gonna fail fast, like quick. You want to fail in no time. Like if you're presenting design, you wanted the client to reject that design in a day or two. Don't wait 2 weeks to present like a series of design to the client. And then he's going to change his mind. So you want to fail fast. So speed is such an important asset for every business. But I never got a sense of that until I was like, okay, now that we're all remote and we have another layer on top of us, which means like, you know, I want to do like a change on like in a design, and I need to jump on a call instead of just going to someone's desk and say, hey, change that. Now, because we're adding another layer that's counterproductive, that in my point of view, I'm like, okay, how can I balance out that? It's with speed. So I need to be faster and snappier.
Yeah, so smart. You know, some of what we often kind of fall in the trap as business owners is uh, trying to anticipate all the possible problems ahead of time. And we think because we have experience that we're not going to suffer from basic mistakes or common issues. But really, like most of the decisions we make are decisions we make over a period of time. And if we're not paying attention, or we delay to make certain decisions, we hold back or we skip a couple, like you don't want to do it again, right? That's an often thing of like, dang, I've done this a million times, so I have to do it again. And you skip those basics is often where we're getting ourselves into crisis, where we lose visibility. And it's without a roll up, you kind of, most people don't ever really see what the accumulation of all those issues would be put into dollar marks. So there's some visibility that's necessary. But I love the way you're processing that, the fact that you can have an attitude about the conversations, productions, and decisions that you're making with your team, that you're building people up. And that building people up over time really gives you retention with those clients. It makes you a more efficient business. You'll be better with that client in the long run. Like you'll win 3 or 4 different ways from that one project. And these are successful financially or not successful financial projects. So to even like have a postmortem, no matter what, on a project, win or loss, have a postmortem, that's a great practice to have in place.
Yeah.
I like these reminders. I think a lot of us imagine somebody that's too busy to do something like that, because we often feel like, I don't know, I'm too busy, I can't do it that way. Think about all the loss that you experience because you're using the excuse of being too busy.
And those kind of problems are going to happen again. You know, it's not. And also, like if you think about clients, let's say this specific client, I know that they were used to a different workflow because they were working with another studio for a while. And then in my head was like, they are used to that workflow. But because we're now learning each other, that would be a little bit of like, it's a bumpy road until you get to a point that now we know how to work together. Because it's a different relationship, you know? It's like you were married to someone, and then you don't want to treat your new girlfriend as you're used to treat your wife. It's a different person. You know, it's going to be a different relationship.
That's a very odd example, but I know what you're saying, Marcel.
Yeah.
Well, Marcel, I'm curious if you have, would you agree with this statement that when you're working on a new project, new client, new relationship, that to a certain extent, when you're innovating, there's always going to be mistakes that get made. And if the projects just always went well and everything just worked and everything was easy, I would submit maybe you're not innovating because innovation is messy and you can't predict what it's going to take to do something new, original, amazing. And sometimes it takes more than you expected and you end up with a loss.
Yeah, and also innovation requires something that, and again, and I'm trying in this process of like after COVID, I'm trying to come up with like one word for all my thoughts. Innovation means work. You gotta put in the work, right?
Be creative. That's innovation, right?
You gotta work hard, maybe hard, like, even like harder, because it's like insane to innovate. And most of it's funny because every time you try to innovate, you are trying to do something, but you don't know if that's gonna work. So there's like a lot. It's very bumpy. But if the team is actually okay with that, and they're like in the same mindset, oh man, I can tell you, like, we made one project the other day and we saw in the production roll up, and everyone's like, how the heck we made this project to be up by 35% on the production roll up? And then I said, because we innovated. Because if we do the project the same way we were doing before, we would lose money. This project would be minus 2%, you know?
Yeah.
But because we were like, okay, let's try to do this way. And then boom, and then it worked. I'm like, yeah, there we go.
You you're reminding me of this book that I'm reading, and a quote from this book. So the quote is this woman named Corrie ten Boom, and I swear if you've read a Christian book in the last 50 years, a quote from her has showed up. I feel like her whole career was just making quotes that other people can quote. In this one, it's if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. And I love that as a sentiment of like, really, there's this thing of like busyness subtracts from you. If you just want to be busy, if you're looking for busy work, if you feel like you need to be busy, you're constantly subtracting from who you are, what you can contribute, and the way, like, what your overall contribution can be. In the thought process of innovation beyond busyness, I think a lot of people feel value in staying busy at work. So I filled up all my entire day, I filled up all my hours keeping myself busy, but did you really accomplish anything? Could we have been smarter in what's going on? Is there any efficiencies happening? So there's a pursuit actually of trying to discover what the value is over our time commitment to it. This book, by the way, is the book I'm going to read this weekend, this long weekend, called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, by Mark Comer, John Mark Comer. And I'm just getting started. That's like, I literally grabbed this because I'm like, I'm going to read this over this 3-day weekend. But I can feel it. And I can't tell you how many conversations, because I talk to a lot of business owners on a daily basis. And it's almost like the first 3 or 4 minutes is a competition of who has been busiest. And, or often like say, like, how are you guys doing? Oh, I'm just so busy. I've been so busy. And you think of like, are we promoting busyness? Are we giving people like extra credit because they sound busier? And we act like that's an important value. In the reset of the post-coronavirus opportunity, we now don't have to commute. We can work from home differently. We can find efficiencies. And I feel like we're gonna have to find a different value than like, I've kept myself really busy over the last few days, and to trying to find a new word to explain something that's valuable. So I'm in pursuit of that myself, but the way you're talking, Marcel, makes me think of like how often we try to just fill in the hours and we don't slow down, we don't process, we don't innovate. We're not looking for change or value proposition. We're just looking for like, how busy can I be?
Yeah.
How can I look? How big? How many bodies do I have in my office?
Yeah.
All that kind of like false measurement of success.
Yeah, and that the time, like for example, it's funny that you're saying that, because now that I'm using a little bit of the time to even think about strategy, like lately I'm like, okay, now I have a little bit more time, so let me just come up with like strategy. And it goes back to one of the books I read like a few months ago. They were talking about like strategy and how when you analyze your competitive landscape, it's important to see all the business like strategy, because all of a sudden we start copying all those strategies and apply to our businesses. But then you're like, if you fight with bigger people on the same strategy, you're always going to lose, because it's the same strategy. So it doesn't matter. It's like if the US and Canada go on a war and they fight, using military, and then US is going to destroy Canada in a day. But then if Canada fights US on a different strategy that it's not the military, probably the US will be scrambling, but they don't even know what to do. So because
like
of
kindness,
that,
if we have a kindness war, Canada would win. Is that what it is?
with maybe maple syrup.
Yeah, maple syrup war. They could beat us on a lot of great
on
things.
top of them.
That's right. Right.
Well, you know what?
I mean, Celine Dion did come from Canada. There's some important stuff that's coming from.
But I think about strategy because I was using that time you were saying that I never, stop. And then it's like, okay, I was just trying to list of like strategy. I'm like, okay, my competitors are doing this. If I fight on the same strategy, I'm going to lose. So now I have time to think about a new strategy that it's different than their strategy. And man, it's so helpful and so like, exciting to see the answers I'm coming up with.
Well, I was thinking about one strategy that is going to sound very counterintuitive, but maybe it's worth mentioning because it does dovetail into this long weekend that we're getting into. And Tim, something you and I have often done when we start working with a new client is, well, one, we usually find a way to give the owner a raise, and that's when the spouse immediately says thank you, right? But the other thing that often happens is we'll do like a stress test, because most owners will say, I'm so busy, I'm overworked. And we'll say, okay, well, then you're going to start taking off weekends. But then I love to put a stress test out there called, you know what, a month from now, you're going to take a week off. Oh, I could never do that. Well, get ready, because you're going to do it. Because next quarter, you're going to take 2 weeks off. And then by next year, I want you to take a month off. And then maybe 2 years from now, you said you want to do a sabbatical in Europe or something. You're going to take off the entire summer. Now, that doesn't mean you'll just be gone. Maybe you'll be running your company remotely. But we have this vision called a self-managing creative firm. So do you want to do it or not? Are you serious about this when you say you want to have a life and you want to have a more balance and so forth? Because if you just want to be busy all the time, like you're on that path, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you do want to change things, let's actually try this. Let's take time off. And of course, I have a different whole take on time off than most, based on something that I was taught. But I think we even did that with you, Marcel, because I think I remember you and your wife taking some time off that was when you and I first started working together, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off. And of course, I just kept pushing you, do it, because you'll learn so much. You learn where, your team will learn how to step up, how to take over, how to assume responsibility. Yeah. And if you don't do it, it's like nobody learns. They just keep saying, oh, Marcel will step in. Oh, Marcel will fix it. Oh, Marcel will work the weekend.
But I think Tim actually gave me a big punch in the face when he told me that the problem at stake was me. I remember that meeting.
Yeah, I do.
We all remember that meeting, Marcel.
and
the fallout afterward.
No, but it's funny because it's our ego, right? So it's the ego of the business owner. We always think that it's only me that can solve that problem, not others. But then, man, in January, I was in Brazil for almost 4 weeks, and I probably did maybe 2 calls with state only. And then they ran the business. Of course, people will make things different, but it's okay. I mean, no one's going to die. They know if you teach them the mindset, they can survive and they can make decisions and all of that. And it's fine, and I back them up too. And I say, oh, it's okay. Just make the decision. I don't care. I know that you're going to do the best decision ever. So just do it. You empower them. And it was great.
Yeah. I feel like, Marcel, for a lot of people listening right now, they think you're living in a fantasy world, or you're very lucky, or you did something super unique that you could take that time off, have a self-managed company. But really, like that process starts with just asking a question of something simple of, what would it take to to only work 4 days in a week. And if you had to process that question of like, okay, a 4-day work week, what would I do differently? Or in your case, we got to a point where there are systems and routines in place that the company is self-managed. Like the operations of the company contribute to the information, let people see the decisions that need to be made. You've assigned those decisions to people, they make them and keep things going.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in the trenches in every decision. You just need to set things up properly so that other people know how to follow along. There's some possibilities in getting out of being the most important person in your business in every possible decision. And many of us, our egos got us into this job. So we believe like being the most important person is what we think is feeding our ego. And it's really like a foolish game. You can't keep up with that demand. The best thing you can do is build up others over time so that they become stronger. They serve you well and serve your clients well. And then the team builds itself up. That's the best contribution you can put out there instead of being the most important person in the room at all times.
Yeah. What do you think? So I have something really awkward to share. Maybe I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I'll share with you. So think about this. When I take a 3-week vacation, 3 to 4 week vacation, my mind goes, okay, state's going to lose 15% to 20% of the power. Okay. Because I'm not there like, cheering people up and say, let's do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to slow down a little bit. Okay. But then because I take that time off, when I come back, probably I put, because I'm refreshed and I'm ready to go and I'm like, okay, this is good. Probably state wins 30% more. So in terms of investment of this vacation, I'm winning 15% more power. Perfect. Because I'm back refreshed instead of just going to that 15% all the time. Does that make sense?
I love that.
Oh, for sure.
But you have a faith, some trust that that's going to be true. So you're not always afraid that the thing in front of you is the only project left on the planet.
No. Yeah.
Like that's the feast and famine is like, well, I have to win this one. This is the only one. And this one gets me to the next one. That you've learned to kind of move things around too. Oh, go ahead, Joel.
I was just going to say something else I hear there. And this was something that I was taught, and it's a really nutty idea, but maybe this is what you're saying, Marcel, is most of us view time off and vacation as a reward. I worked really, really hard. I hit the deadline. I got the project done. I won the job, whatever. Now I need to relax. But I was taught this idea that actually time off is where you become re-energized so that you can come back and perform at your best. So it's more like preparation. And that's almost what you were saying is when I take time away and I re-energize, when I come back, I'm able to push and invest and be more creative in a way that makes more value show up and it generates more revenue and all these kinds of things. Is that part of what you're saying?
Joel, say that again. So time off is preparation, not
reward.
Say it again?
Yeah, preparation, not reward.
Preparation, not reward. That's a great quote. Time off is preparation, not reward. That's an awesome way of thinking of it. You would be way more proactive in that process, huh? You would almost recognize the need for time off in order to get through a season, opposed to saying, after a busy season, I'll give myself the reward, which will never come, and keep on burning yourself out. Wow.
Well, I was just on a call with a client that has a huge, incredible meeting pitch happening this coming Tuesday. And I said, dude, good job. You've already prepared. So now you need to take the weekend off as preparation, like take the time off as preparation. And then when you come back on Monday evening, just check to make sure you're ready to go. And Tuesday, you'll go in fresh, confident. Your subconscious will have processed all the stuff and you'll just come in and be cool as a cucumber and, win this meeting. Because at the end of our careers, we look back and it's a handful of meetings. It's a handful of presentations that alter the trajectories of our businesses, even our careers and our lives. So it's worth being fully prepared, which also includes be energized.
I'm so glad you're saying this, because I'm going to go to the French countryside for 4 weeks, Joel, to prepare.
Perfect. Great.
Don't call me. Just keep RevThink going. Don't.
Hey, I'll see you there, man. I'll beat you there.
You want to come prepare with me? That's awesome. We'll just tell all of our clients we're preparing. We're just preparing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, we should at least, I know we're out of time here. We should at least mention Dustin asked a great question here. And Marcel, I think this is maybe one you can answer briefly, if possible. He was just asking, what are your tips for leading others who are more talented than you? So following the idea of replacing your weaknesses, building others up, and empowering them. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's a deep question. I like that. Yeah, well, it's actually, I'm, I have this example. I don't know if that fits, here, but we recently got a new creative director at State, and I'm so protective with the State's creative and everything in the vision, but I actually stayed out of the way of this creative director. And I said, do your thing, I'll be here as a resource if you need me. But man, she's a beast. When I saw her working with people, I'm like, I am the worst creative director ever, because the way she was like empowering people and talking, and she had the routines and everything. My creative process is more messy than her, but just seeing that, I was like, I learned so much. And it was like, for me, it was an exercise. And I said, wow, I need to do this better. Sometimes, because we are in the leadership position, we say, let me take this, sometimes just let people do it. I was like, just do your thing. I'll be here watching you doing. I'm like, oh my God, that's how she runs her project. Sure. Now I know that I can take most of like the stuff that she was doing into my workflow, and I'm like better,
I love that, Marcel. Like the saying I often tell people is, there's nothing you can break that I can't fix. Right. So this idea of like, I'm just going to get out of your way and then see what happens, especially if someone's more talented than you. If you were in their way, you would slow them down. You would make them, they would meet your standard opposed to their more talented standard. But what a hard practice to get out of the way. I often try to tell people, like, support them. So give them some tool or some reconciliation or a meeting or a report that they could keep up with, to make the communication between yourself and them easiest. And then when you get out of the way, that there's a reconciliation, a conversation, and a growth for you or for them. That's how you help people succeed.
Yeah.
But to turn it to just do what you can to make them succeed is your goal. And whatever that takes is the kind of right tips. Get out of your way, get out of their way. So that's a great.
You said something to me maybe like a few years ago that I use that all the time. As a business owner, you have to be there for your team, sometimes as a resource. What I was asking this creative director was, if you need my help, I'm always here for you. I'll always make the time to talk to you about the project, but I check on her, I'm like, how's your project going? Cool. Can I help you with something? She's like, no, I got this. I'm like, client's happy. Yeah. Creative looks cool. I mean, I love it. So great. So do you need any help? And she's like, oh, I need help. I don't know how to run this. And I'll be like, why didn't you do this? She's like, oh, that's awesome. Take it from there. Boom. Yeah. So it's just like asking that question. How can I help? That's pretty much it.
Well, I know we need to wrap this up. We need people to go start their 4-day weekend, a weekend of preparation, not reward, and get themselves ready for Revolve next week. So get some time in. Go read a book this weekend. Enjoy the time you have off. Just a quick announcement from around the world. Blair Enns, Win Without Pitching, has launched a YouTube channel. I got an email this morning. I think he's just done a great job. Some 5-minute clips. He's answering questions. He stole this Ask Me Anything idea from us. I'm pretty sure of that. And I'm just kidding. But he has this a great resource for you. So I would encourage you to take a look at some of those resources out there. I think he does a great job. And then next week, Joel, we have cohort coming up. That's Thursday afternoon. We're going to do cocktails, and you have a special little guest or something planned for us. Can't wait to hear what that is. But we need people to sign up and register for that so we can give them the information and the login for it. So if we want to post the cohort registration page, make sure people are signing up for that. It's not going to be this format. We need to send you guys a link for that. So make sure you have done that.
Yeah.
Revolve is happening. If you are interested in Revolve, please do us a favor and make sure you follow through right now, early next week. We're going to make some small groups, and the sooner we know that you're involved, the better we'll be at placing you in those small groups. So it would be very helpful to us to not have you wait till last minute. There will be replays of Revolve. There is an online component to it. There's a small group component to it. So we know that the timing might conflict with your overall schedule, but we're scheduling it and structuring in such a way that you can kind of fill in the gaps there. But it would be great for us to know that you're part of that community. And don't forget the 7 Ingredients discount code. If you're part of 7 Ingredients, you can go in there, log in and look at that code. It gives you $500 off for that registration, which makes the second tier really close and affordable to that first tier pricing. So many people ask me which one to sign up for. I just told them use the discount and get the second tier. You don't want to skip the small group component of it for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, that's in the welcome channel in the 7 Ingredients Slack group. Hey, Marcel, it sure was good to see you, man. Thanks for jumping in with us today live. I know it's been a crazy week, but are you going to relax this weekend like the rest of us?
Yeah, I'll try to. I'm so busy. I need to be busy.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to hold you to it. We're going to hold you to it. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here today on the Daily Briefing today. We ran over 7 minutes long, but hopefully that'll carry you through the weekend. We will not be live on Monday, so we'll see some of you on Tuesday and Wednesday as we wrap up. And we'll also be announcing what the Daily Briefing is going to become. We're looking at switching to a weekly format and as a way to kick off each week for owners around the world. So stay tuned. Thanks again, Marcel, for being our guest. Tim, have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, Marcel.
Bye.
Thanks, Ethan.